Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Jo Gross. I'm going to be talking about emotions and learning. So we understand from Maslow's hierarchy of needs that a child's needs must be met in order for them to be successful in the classroom. The basis need, the foundation of this need is physiological needs. But the next needs really focus on emotions. And one of the biggest things is safety. And feeling safe and secure in the classroom is huge because we know that fear and anxiety will prevent learning in the classroom. Fear is a physiological response. Fear is a response to an external stimuli. Anxiety is a response to something that's arbitrary. It's internal. We don't really know what it is. It's really hard for us as teachers to prevent this anxiety when we don't really understand what's triggering it always. But we can try to do things to make sure that it's not happening in the first place by using emotions in a positive way. Now, anxiety will lock up a child's brain. In fear, there's a fight or flight response. There's also sometimes a freeze response. Some people, when they're faced with a dangerous situation, will just freeze and they won't move. And most commonly, when children are anxious, they will have that freeze response. And their brains will lock up. They get fixated on this irrational idea, something that's going on in their minds, and that just really makes it hard for them to move forward. Now, the functionalist theory is that emotions help people manage important tasks. So fear helps people be safe in danger. But there are emotions that will help people have more positive responses to things. It will have the ability to learn because these emotions. And the emotions that are key to learning are called the knowledge emotions. Now, these emotions are surprise, interest, confusion, and awe. Now, I will say that surprise has a bit of anxiety to it. It's like that snap into reality when all of a sudden something comes to truth. Sometimes as teachers, we use surprise to get the class all together, get their attentions. Sometimes that can be alarming. So I think that we need to be careful about the element of surprise. There are multiple ways to use this in the classroom, but surprise initially is another one that could alert you to possible danger. It is that basis of that fear response, and you notice something that seems out of the ordinary, so you're shocked into this, okay, what's my next course of action? So I would argue that all four of these knowledge emotions do not stand alone. It's not that you're going to use one or another and not use the other, but they lend to each other and they feed into each other. Now, because I'm an art teacher, I'm going to focus on awe, first of all. Albert Einstein describes awe as the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious, the source of all true art and science. Awe to Albert Einstein was this moment of wonderment and this inspiration. And really, he suggested that we needed to spend time pondering these things. The article about students in Berkeley, an article from berkeley.edu was talking about how awe can actually help students find their purpose, because you are so amazed by something that you are drawn into it and you want to be a part of it. It's like you see this and you need to experience it. And sometimes it can help students really find something that directs them to where they want to go in the future, directs them to what they want to do. And the example that they used was this very young boy was learning about how African colonies have, or there are areas in Africa that do not have enough water. And it inspired him to start a program to get water to these people in Africa who needed water. So this very young student, 7-year-old boy, decided that he was going to start this thing, and he, created this movement in order to fulfill this sense of awe that he had had. And I think that awe isn't the beginning and the end. Awe lends to other things. Awe lends to curiosity, most commonly. But which has the larger impact? Awe is the sort of surprise element that gets a student excited about something, but curiosity is really what helps them learn more about it. And so many of these things are just ways to grab their attention, and they really depend on the other thing to help really draw them in. So if you're looking at the knowledge emotions and you say awe, it grabs your attention, you notice something from the beauty, that might lead to interest, or it might lead to confusion because this beautiful thing is difficult to understand. And from there, you're going to be curious, and you're going to want to gain a more in-depth idea of this concept. So they're not independent of each other. I found this quote from Albert Einstein. He says, the important thing is to not stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. One cannot help but be in awe when he contemplates the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. It is enough if one tries merely to comprehend a little of this mystery every day. And he says, never lose a holy curiosity. And I found that quote interesting because it lends to both awe and curiosity. And so I say that in the art room, I grab children's attention most commonly with the awe element, but then I need to transition them into the curiosity to really promote learning. So how do I do that? How do I promote curiosity in students? Marilyn Price Mitchell, Dr. Marilyn Price Mitchell says, she listed 10 things. I really thought that the first 5 had the strongest value. She says, lead by example. So show students that you're curious. Like, walk through these curious questions with them. Teach students to ask quality questions. When I'm looking at a piece of artwork in my mind, I am thinking, what are those symbols? What is this? Why did they place this person here? What's the juxtaposition between this object and that? Is there a historical reference for this? And I can think all those things in my mind, and I can think that those might be, things that everybody considers, but I really need to first lead by example, walk my children through that, and then reach out to them and teach them how to ask those questions. Look at them and say, when you see this piece of artwork, what do you see? Rather than feeding that information to them without them asking, let them, have that moment of awe and then lead them to that curiosity. And notice when they appear puzzled or confused, because confusion can help work through a process, but it can also be a major roadblock. If children are confused, then it puts a stop to it. It's like a frustration, and they don't want to move forward. And encourage students to think about things. Children need to understand that your one idea is not necessarily the final idea. That, sometimes we move through these bits of information, and so what if we go down this path and then we say, oh, well, no, maybe not that way, but this way. So tinkering is like, yes, sometimes physically with your hands, but tinkering is also tinkering with a thought. tinkering with an idea and you follow it through one path and then you get towards the end and you say no. And really spreading the curiosity and encouraging students to work together, do group projects and have them ask these questions of each other. Have them ask, well, what do you see? What questions does this lead you to? See, these things are all connected. Awe is the capturing of the beauty, curiosity, and this image is linear, but really this is a circle because anywhere, these are interchangeable. Maybe interest came, before surprise. Maybe, a bit of information was the first thing in the lesson. Maybe the surprise was the shock in the first thing, and awe is the last. These bits of knowledge, I think they all work together. I don't think that it's one or the other, and I don't necessarily believe that it's a solid path. Like, curiosity doesn't always go, it's not always awe, curiosity, surprise, interest. When I think about a specific lesson that I would do in the art room, this is the possible path that I'm seeing, but there are multiple possible paths and it could go multiple different ways depending on where you're starting and how you're presenting the lesson. I think the important thing is it's almost like a journey. You have to move the students through each one of these things. And so as teachers, we have to decide what emotions are we going to promote in our rooms. Now, we could allow anxiety and fear to take over. We could allow the negative emotions that are going to prevent learning, or we can promote the emotions that are going to promote learning. These, the awe, the curiosity, and the surprise, and the interest, in any given order, in any given content area, or any given subject, we just have to decide what's going to be the best way to promote that lesson, what is going to be the best approach, and work through those examples and make sure that we're leaving space for that surprise, leaving space for the awe, and not getting so constrained by our times of our class periods that we are pushing right through that and we're taking those emotions away from our students and robbing them of the opportunity to learn through their emotions.